What is up, everyone? This is Zach. Welcome to the channel. So I'm back with the episode 5 review for the Witcher series on Netflix. The title of this episode is called Bottled Appetites, and for any of you book readers out there, this is the moment we've been waiting for. Geralt and Yennefer finally meet. Their timelines converge in this episode, so no more switching back and forth between Yennefer's story and Geralt's story. Hopefully for the rest of the season they stay together and we can just focus on their story at the same time. At the moment, Ciri's story is still going to be in the future, and to be honest, I don't think we are going to see Geralt, Yennefer, and Ciri come together on the same timeline until the final episode. So if you enjoyed this video and it helps you understand the show a little better, leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe for more of these videos. If you do any of those things, I will greatly appreciate it, and it will really help the channel out a lot. So this video will probably be shorter than my other ones just because the story is going to be easier to explain because Geralt and Yennefer are now on the same timeline, and really this episode is kind of simpler than the other ones. And so when I'm finished talking about the show itself, I'm going to talk about how it compares to the short story in the book that this episode drew its inspiration from. They changed this story from the book a ton, but I'll talk about that when I get there. So let's get into the episode. I'm going to start off talking about the Nilfgaard scenes first. So we start off with the knight from Nilfgaard, the guy with the feathers on his helmet that's been a pain in the butt since the beginning. Now I don't know if the show has said this guy's name, so I'm going to go ahead and say it. His name is Cahir, I think that is how you say it. And he meets a Doppler who he wants to impersonate Mousesack. Now for those of you who don't know exactly, a Doppler can take the shape of anything it wants, but it also takes on all of its knowledge and memories, so it actually becomes whoever it wants to be. So they have Mousesack in Dimeridium shackles, and Dimeridium stops mages from using their powers, so Mousesack can't fight back. His powers are stunted at the moment, and the Doppler transforms into him and slowly kills him. It was a painful scene, man. That was the slowest I've ever seen someone be stabbed. And then we find out this imposter Mousesack is being sent to retrieve Ciri from Brocklin. Okay, and then moving on to Ciri, so the Dryads are debating on what to do with her. The waters of Brocklin did not affect her, so they couldn't brainwash her into staying. So they let her decide whether she wants to stay in Brocklin or if she wants to leave. So she's undecided at the moment, but the imposter Mousesack shows up in Brocklin to get Ciri, saying he will take her to Geralt. And of course Ciri trusts Mousesack, so her and her friend Dara follow him out of Brocklin, and that is the last we see of him in this episode. Alright, so now we're going to get into Yennefer, Geralt, and Jaskier's storyline this episode. So we found out Yennefer is no longer a part of the Brotherhood of Sorcerers. I don't think she is in good standing with them anymore after what we saw last episode, where she lets the king's wife and her child be killed. So now she's kind of operating on her own. She's making her own living, helping random townspeople, whoever needs it, with their problems such as erectile dysfunction. So her so-called practice is stopped by the mayor, who's being pressured by some councilmen to kick her out of the town. So he's keeping her at his house when we are visited by the rectoress, the lady who trained her in the second episode, and she tells her that if she keeps breaking these rules and going against the Brotherhood's wishes, that they're going to come after her and try to stop her. And Yennefer pretty much tells her to screw off, she's going to do what she wants. And then we get to Geralt and Dandelion. Geralt's searching for a Djinn in a lake. Now a Djinn is like a genie, and it is a super powerful magical being. The show undersells how powerful it is, but as we know, if you release a genie you get 3 wishes. And Geralt's reason for doing it is he just wants to sleep. So they find the Djinn's vessel and they're fighting over it, which causes it to break, releasing the Djinn, and Jaskier instantly starts spouting off wishes, and Geralt tells him to shut up, he just wants some peace. Right after he says this, Jaskier starts coughing up blood, obviously in pain, and his throat is super messed up. So Geralt rushes him to a healer where he is told that he needs magic to heal his throat because it is magically wounded. And he recommends them going to see Yennefer and warns Geralt to beware. Geralt doesn't even know it's a girl, he thinks it's a man. So Geralt shows up at the mayor's house, knocks the guy out with the coin purse, and comes in and is met with a mass orgy. Drops Dandelion off right next to a woman's breasts and goes and talks to Yennefer. She agrees to help and she starts healing Jaskier's throat. So Yennefer then makes Geralt take a bath because he smells like his dirty horse and he smells gross. So they actually bathe together and they get to know each other a little better, but they are bickering and kind of arguing the whole time. After the bath, Geralt goes in the room where Jaskier is sleeping and he sees pretty much a pentagram on the ground with candles around it in the shape of the seal that was on the Djinn's vessel. So he knows Yennefer is trying to summon the Djinn. She's trying to control it and gain its power. And also the main reason she's trying to heal Jaskier's throat is because they believe he is the master of the Djinn. They believe he is the one who's being granted the wishes. And in order for the Djinn to be released from its master, it has to fulfill all 3 wishes. So once Jaskier's throat is cured, she's going to make him ask his final wishes, and Geralt wants no part of it, and he's about to grab Jaskier and walk out when Yennefer stops him and puts him under a trance and pretty much makes him do her bidding. Next thing we know, he wakes up and he's in a dungeon with the healer from earlier who told him to beware about Yennefer, and he explains exactly what happened with Geralt. Apparently Geralt went around and got revenge on the 2 councilmen who were trying to kick Yennefer out of town, spanked one guy's butt in the middle of the city square, and intimidated the other, so they're not happy with him and they're going to try to execute Geralt. The guy who Geralt knocked out with the coin purse comes down to the dungeon to get his revenge. He's beating up Geralt, and he asks him if he has any last words, which Geralt replies, "I want you to burst." And as you could have guessed, this dude's head explodes, and everyone realizes that Geralt is the master of the Djinn. He is the one who's granted the wishes. So going back to Yennefer, she still thinks Jaskier is the one who is in control of the Djinn. She's trying to get him to make these last wishes while she is fighting this thing and trying to tame it. Jaskier runs out of the house just as Geralt is showing up, and Geralt is gung-ho on going in there and saving Yennefer, much to the surprise of Jaskier. So it's clear that Geralt has been affected by Yennefer, and he is indeed infatuated with her, and he does not want to see her die. So he goes in there and sees she is going to be unable to tame this Djinn. He knows it's far too powerful for her, and she's going to kill herself in the process of trying to control it. But as we have seen so far, Yennefer is very prideful and she's very full of herself. It's implied that she's so adamant about gaining this Djinn's power so that she's able to fix her infertility from becoming a sorceress. She really wants to be able to have kids, and this may be her best chance. Geralt can see that she is really serious about doing this, so he knows that once he makes this wish, they both run the risk of being killed by this Djinn's power. So he comes up with a clever wish to hopefully save both of their lives, and then it cuts to outside and we can see the room they are in implodes as the Djinn is freed and flies up into the sky. Jaskier and everyone outside thinks they're dead, but Yennefer portaled them out of the room at the last second into the room earlier where the giant orgy was going on, where Geralt and Yennefer get into an argument and then shortly after have sex. Jaskier sees them through the window and lets them have their moment. And at the end, Yennefer asks Geralt what his wish was, but we do not find out and the episode cuts to black. So for those of you who have not read the books, you probably enjoyed this episode and thought it was pretty good. For the most part, I enjoyed watching it, but for those of us who have read the books, they just changed so much and deviated so much from the original story. It was hard to actually rate it highly in the end. The short story this is based on is actually called The Last Wish. It's actually the name of the entire first book, which is a collection of short stories. So Yennefer and Geralt's relationship is actually a very important thing in The Witcher, and I feel like this episode didn't quite do it the justice that it deserved. So I don't know if this show is going to explain what Geralt's last wish was in the upcoming episodes, so I'm going to talk about what the book implies his last wish is. So the book doesn't actually tell you either exactly what Geralt says, but it's heavily implied that he tied his fate to Yennefer's fate so that they would both be able to survive this Djinn spell. So the exact wording of it is unknown, but from here on out, Yennefer and Geralt are linked in some powerful unknown way that only they really know. So their affection for each other is always up in the air because they don't know if it is actually real or if it's the result of this final wish that Geralt made. But for those of you who are only here for the explanation of the episode, I would like to thank you for watching. I'm going to continue talking about the difference between the book and the way the show interpreted it. So remember to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you don't want to miss another episode. Okay guys, so I'm just going to go on a little rant on a lot of the things I didn't like about the episode and how they changed it from the books. So we're going to start with Ciri. So the Brocklin storyline with Ciri was very underwhelming. Like nothing happened in this forest. And in the books, it's actually pretty important. And they completely changed this whole story around. So in the books, Geralt actually comes and rescues Ciri from Brocklin. But as we see in the show, Geralt never even comes here. He has no part in what happens there. Also, the leader of the Dryads, her name is Aithne. She was the black woman who was kind of the leader. In the book, she's much more important than they make her seem in this. Like, she's not there in the beginning. They have to travel through the whole forest to get to where she resides, and it's a whole ordeal about drinking the water of Brocklin with Ciri, and Geralt is there, and it's just a whole big deal. And it's much more impactful than what the show made it seem. There's really no reason for her to even come to Brocklin. I don't see what part it plays in this overall story. And then the main problem with The Last Wish is they just undermine the Djinn's actual power. And they just change so many random things about the story. It's kind of odd to me. So in the books, Geralt and Jaskier aren't even looking for a Djinn. They're fishing for food for breakfast when they stumble upon this vessel. The show just makes it seem like you can locate a Djinn whenever you want, like Geralt did. Like, oh, there's a Djinn in this lake. No, they are very rare. There's only a limited number of them. There's only a handful of them in the entire world because they're such powerful beings and they're from another dimension. They're from a whole nother realm. Some further deviations from the book is Geralt actually goes to trial after being in the dungeons, and Yennefer drops Jaskier in there to make a wish saying everyone believe Geralt is innocent because, similar to the show, they believe he is the one with the wishes. And they find out, well, that's how they find out in the middle of a trial that Jaskier is not the one who's making the wishes. Also at the same moment, the Djinn is actually starting to attack the town, and this is the main difference. So the Djinn in the book is destroying this entire city. It's ripping it apart while Yennefer is trying to control it. I mean, these things are extremely powerful. For example, there's a story about a wizard who had control of a Djinn, and he did not like the view from his castle because there was a mountain blocking all the scenery. So he orders his Djinn to remove the mountain, and the Djinn makes this entire mountain disappear from our realm. So these things are like gods. They can do almost anything that you want them to do. And it's just kind of disappointing to see how much the show has to limit them, either due to budget or because they just didn't care enough to show them be that powerful. But anyways, guys, that's enough of my ranting. Overall, it was still a good episode. I would give it a 6 out of 10, only because I'm a book reader. If you're not a book reader, you probably rate it higher than that, because it was still entertaining overall. So if you made it this far, thanks for sitting through my rambling. Drop a like and maybe a comment letting me know what you thought about this episode, and if you liked it or if you kind of agree with me. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.